Hey, what's up everybody? Jesse here, and I tell you, my season is in full swing right now, and I have really been waiting for this, and I'm very excited about it. But you know, something that doesn't stop is boat maintenance, and it's time for an oil change on my Suzuki 250 that I have here on my bay boat. So I'm going to do that for y'all today on camera. I've been doing all the maintenance on this boat myself since I've had it. Never really thought about filming it, so I'm just going to do it this time to show y'all what I do. I mean, it's nothing special, it's oil change, but still, just to put it out there. So I've already got it hooked up on the hose bib, as you see down here with the mixing device. I'm gonna go ahead and do an engine flush on it as well while I'm actually running it to heat the engine up, because anytime you do an oil change, you always want to have it at running temperature, because as oil sits, the sediment that's in the oil will actually settle to the bottom of the pan that it's in. It's really good to run it and get everything warmed up and moving, and then drain it immediately. That way you actually get as much of that sediment out of the engine as possible. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the water, let it sit here and run. I'm gonna go ahead and get that done. All right, y'all, I got it running. As you see, everything is working fine as far as the coolant. I'll give it about 10 minutes, let it heat up, and then I'm gonna move it under the shelter to change the oil, because we have all these random storms today. So that's what's up, get this done. All right, y'all, I got it all warmed up. I let it run for about 10 minutes, and I just pulled it under my lean-to here to do the actual work. And I'm glad I did, because it started raining almost immediately. And as you see, I have the oil down here that I'm going to use. I've always used this Suzuki X-Star oil 1040. And I got a new oil filter and a new drain plug gasket, and also just a few tools. I got the oil filter remover tool right here, torque wrench for tightening up the drain bolt when I'm done, and also an 8mm Allen socket wrench. All of that staged and ready to go. And if we come back here and look, you see I've got, you know, a nice piece of big cardboard on the ground just to catch any oil that I might miss or spill. I got a 5-gallon bucket for draining the oil, and pretty much now we're just going to pop the cover off and loosen the oil fill screw where you would add the oil. That way there's not a vacuum in the system, and go ahead and pop that drain bolt out and let it start draining. So let's go ahead and crack these bad boys. It's hard to do with one hand, but I'll be all right. And then I'll just break the cover loose, give it a good jiggle, go ahead and pop that off, but I'm gonna have to put the camera down for that. So all right, y'all, I got the cover off, just set it on the back of the boat right there, nice and easy. And I forgot to mention, it's a good thing to have a 6-foot step ladder around for getting the cover up and off the motor, and also for accessing this oil fill plug when we add the oil into the engine. But what we're going to do now is go ahead and loosen this and take it off. That way the oil will drain out faster. I'm just going to set it over here to the side, and we're going to take this 8mm Allen socket wrench and break this loose. Move this ladder out of the way right here. So I'm just going to spin this out. Have the bucket ready. It's going to come out quick. There we go. Let all that oil drain, and I'm going to grab a rag to clean this bolt up real quick. I took a rag and just cleaned the drain bolt up real good, and took the old washer off of it because we're going to replace it. Alright, as you see, it's draining good, just going right down into the bucket. I just kind of keep scooting the bucket closer as the stream gets weaker, you know, out of the motor. And scoot it there, because it's going to start kind of dripping off of the motor cover. It's going to make a little bit of a mess, but it is what it is. Okay, so that's draining. Now over on this side of the motor is the oil filter, which is mounted right here. And what I like to do is just shove a rag down in the case under it like so, just to catch any possible leakage. All right, so that's good to come off. All right, so I got the oil filter removal tool. Basically get this right auto parts store just on a ratchet and an extension, and it just slides right on and expands like so. And then all you got to do is just give it a little twist. A lot of these you can actually just get up right off my hand. That's all you need that for. Just set that over here for the moment. I'll go ahead and spin this off real quick. Stand it up. Just set this right down here on the cardboard. So basically all that oil is just going to get soaked up by that rag right there. Let that sit. So we'll just let everything sit for a good 10 minutes or so. Make sure we get as much oil out of it as we can. See why I got the cardboard, because even with my best efforts, it still makes a little bit of a mess. Definitely don't want that down on the ground. All right, y'all, so I went ahead and opened up the new oil filter, and I'm gonna take a little bit of the oil and very carefully dump into it just to kind of get some in the filter. Now you can't fill it up because it mounts sideways and it'll dump all into the engine, but you can put about, I'd say probably about 1/4 of a quart in here just to keep it from being a completely dry start when you turn this thing over for the first time. I just real carefully dump a little bit of the oil in the filter. You got to go slow too so it soaks it up. All right, that should be enough. Actually, 1/4 of a quart was a bit excessive. It's not very much. And I've got a little bit I dumped in the cap right here. This new oil, I'm just going to take that and lubricate the O-ring around the oil filter real good. That way it seals correctly. All right, so this is pretty much ready to go. All right, here we are. So you see it's nice and clean in there. I wiped it all out real good with a clean rag. I got the oil filter here with a little bit of oil in it. And you're just going to set it up in here and spin it right on fast as you can. Try to prevent any oil from leaking out of it. And I just go hand tight on them, and that's all you need. For the love of God, don't put that wrench on it. Hand tight, that's all you need on these things. Okay, so that's good. That's done. And we're still draining over here. We'll let all of that get out, so we're going to give it a little bit longer. But while that's finishing, what I'm going to go ahead and do is get these other bottles here opened up and ready. That way when I start filling, I can just rock and roll with it and I don't have to stop and open a bottle. Just cut that with my fingernail. Peel that right off. Same thing here. Peel that right off. All right, so these are all ready to go. All right, y'all, it's been maybe 20 minutes this thing's been sitting here, and it's still just dripping real slow, so we're pretty much good to go. I've got the drain bolt here all cleaned up with the new washer. A torque wrench here is set to the 9.5 foot-pounds that the manual says, at least one I can find online for this. What you do want to do, though, is put some oil on this before you use it. That way it torques properly, because it won't if it's dry. I'll slip it on there over here and go ahead and thread it in. I cleaned this off, by the way, really good too with a clean rag. All right, and then we'll just run it in by hand until it's bottomed out snug. Got the torque wrench here set, ready to go. And you just, until it breaks, check it. All right, that's good. Now, if we go look at the manual, this is the owner's manual in the engine oil change section. You'll see right here it says engine oil capacity is 8 liters or 8.5 US quarts. So it's basically 2 of these big jugs, which are 4 quarts each or a gallon, and then half of this last quart should be the capacity of it. So we're going to go ahead and add those up here. I got a nice clean funnel in the oil fill ready to go. We'll go ahead and knock that out. This is also where the ladder comes in handy again. All right, there you go. We pretty much got the recommended amount of engine oil in it. We're just going to let it sit for a minute, just make sure all that drains out of the funnel, and then we'll pull the funnel out. Went ahead and clean the oil fill plug really good, but it's important to get a little bit of oil on this O-ring here to make sure that it seats properly as well. So basically I'll take this and just a little bit of oil out of this cap here and just spread it around it real quick. Sorry, I only got one hand here. All right, just got that O-ring lubricated, and the surface here is clean, so we'll just go ahead and thread this bad boy back in. Make sure that O-ring seats properly. You definitely don't want to see the O-ring sticking out anywhere around there. If you do, something's wrong. This looks perfect. Get that just hand tight, and then you're good to go. All right, so now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and wipe the engine down really good, get this bucket here and cardboard out of the way. I'll take the funnel and go ahead and take the used oil and put it back in the jugs that it came in, and take that and also the used oil filter down to the local recycling center and dispose of them properly. All right, y'all, as you see, we got everything cleaned up. All the old oil in the bottle is ready to be taken off along with the filter, and all the oil's in the engine. The plug's torqued, the oil filler cap is back on correctly, the oil filter is on correctly. So now we just need to check it on the dipstick, and it's right at the top mark. Now that's a little bit high, but keep in mind that the first time you run this engine, it still has to finish filling up this oil filter, because there's always some oil retained in the filter, which will drop that oil down to where it should be. So now it's just a matter of wiping the gasket surface off real good all the way around where the cover sits. You know, stand this up, make sure everything's clean on it, and reinstall the cover on the engine, clamp it back down, and we are good to go. Once again, I just used the ladder to lift the cover up after I made sure everything was clean. Set it down very carefully, make sure it's seated all the way around, and just clamp the 3 latches back down and lock them in place. That's pretty much all there is to that. Well, folks, there you go. That's really all there is to changing the oil in one of these things. It's really pretty simple, just very basic tools needed. Just got to make sure you follow each step carefully and make sure all the O-rings and seals are seated properly and everything is torqued properly, and clean it up real good. Always dispose of the oil respectfully, and that's pretty much it. She's ready to hit the water. I will be doing another video here soon on the lower unit oil, which we'll be changing that because that's due as well, and also a lot of the hour requirements of the engine as far as lubrication and greasing and stuff like that I'll cover in future videos. So thanks for watching. If you have anything to add, please add it in the comments. If you see that I did anything wrong, especially if you're a service tech or something, please add it in the comments, and hopefully this will help somebody out down the road. So peace out. I'll see you in the next video.